Hello and welcome to Lead Scoring Monday. I'm Casey Hawkins, joined as always by Carolan. We are missing Rylee Powell today, but we are going on steady without him or something. I don't know. Insert word. So here's what is on my mind today. The three of us, Chris, Rylee, and I, have been building scoring projects for a few months now. We've worked with a bunch of real clients, stakeholders, complexities, and we've run into the same issue and the same tension time and time again. There's this pressure to get it perfect before we launch anything, especially when we have a lot of stakeholders and a lot of options on like what qualified means, and a lot of times a lot of differences in what the goals of the lead score is. Everyone wants their signal included. Everyone wants to make sure we're not missing something important. I hear that all the time. Like, what if someone falls through the cracks? Like, your perfect buyer is just like, it's sitting right there waiting for you. But if you forgot to score this one email click, then you're going to miss them. And that instinct makes total sense, but it also kills a lot of projects and stalls us so many times. Because here's the thing, your first lead score is going to be wrong, not because you're bad at it, not because you missed that perfect buyer, but because scoring is a learning system. You can't actually know what predicts readiness until you test it against reality. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about why perfectionism paralyzes these projects, and what good enough to learn from actually looks like, and how we're building scores that improve throughout their uses instead of endless planning. Probably there's a lot to read into that last paragraph that I read about perfection being the real enemy to anyone who knows me. But today, let's just talk about it in the scoring perspective. Chris, when I sent you this topic with no warning, did you have any immediate thoughts?
It's the right topic. I think you gave people probably too much credit when you're saying their first score is not good because they're bad at it. Most people are bad at it, so give yourself some grace there. The only way to get good at it is by doing it and building and learning and building and learning. And it's probably worse here than probably anywhere else, just because it takes a lot to get it right in terms of everything else happening in your world of marketing, sales, CRM data, website data, all that stuff. So even if you spend the time to like perfect it, the chances that all the data connections are also perfect, pretty low. And if you start making decisions based on that and kind of a set it and forget it mindset, then you're not going to be happy with those results.
I think that's a big piece, is people want scoring to be a set and forget. And that's just not realistic. And I think what we need to kind of drill down into when we talk about like what is good enough to launch, what are we trying to like build, is what are you trying to use the score for? Is it for, in many cases, it's for sales handoff. That change, like who you want to send to sales is gonna change throughout the year, throughout the week. And so setting it and forgetting it is unrealistic if we know that like our campaigns are gonna change and our goals and our audience is gonna change, as the year changes and as time goes on. So I think when people say set and forget, I just don't think that fits into the reality of what scoring is.
Let me challenge that a little bit. the people, I think, and the audience that we're focused on shouldn't necessarily change. I think the things that they're doing and the things that we're doing to try and understand their journey and get them to communicate to us what they care about and create signals and all this stuff that we're hearing about now, like that probably stays in motion. And that's probably why there's often a disconnect between marketing and sales.
Mhm.
Sales is like, oh, why can't you just the people, they look like this. Those are the people that we sell to. Why can't you just send us when it looks like that? They get a score 100. Or just send it like, right?
Mhm.
And so I think the things that we have to do to create the visibility that sales wants, um, I think needs to be an initial goal, but also, and this heavily relates to unified views, starting from some trusted place is
Mhm.
the most important thing. And if that means you have one data point,
Mhm.
because that's the only one you can trust, that's where you start. You don't get to just throw in like hopes and dreams and then start like learning from that because you won't learn and you just piss everybody off in the process and then nobody trusts anything at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I say it's changing, I'm I think what I more mean, not that the people necessarily are changing, but maybe us as in the organization building this score, we're always learning. Um, we're learning, "Oh, we're actually landing really well with this job title that we hadn't really considered before." Um, in like the most traditional sense. I think that's kind of more what I mean by like it might look different. Um, the people that you're sending might look different today, February 2nd, 2026, than February 2nd, 2027, because you probably learned something within the last year.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I just think,
And some of that might have to do with your unified. If you want to go on your unified view rant,
well,
then
I think like as we I think we have to be careful because a lot of people approach it from like it's either set it and forget it or we can never set anything. So we just have to score for all of the possibilities and set it up for any like blank canvas could go to 400 different combinations
Mhm,
and then you never get to any score at
mhm,
all. And that's where I had to find some foundation, which I think is our goal with the value path and the unified views. Like it should always be, hand raisers or highly engaged researchers.
mhm,
How we get to that label, I think, is what changes. So finding something that the teams can agree on that won't change, so that we're not stuck in these conversations where we're explaining all of the things related to what a score actually means.
mhm,
Um, and this is where the score, I could see a place where, especially with our recent engagement, like trying to simplify the score itself and then creating context around that score with a unified customer view
mhm,
for sales, for marketing,
mhm,
for, you know, in that case, like customer marketing, the success teams,
mhm.
like what are they looking at? Everybody's going to see that score differently. I actually look forward to talking to the scoring product managers tomorrow to talk about that. They've done a ton with like CRM cards, and there's a bunch of other CRM cards coming in to the record that can really start to like if the goal is the salesperson needs to look at this human and understand exactly where they're at and what they care about.
Mhm.
You don't really have to rely on just a score anymore to get that quick snapshot. And I think maybe that's step one is getting people out of that habit, um, and not looking at a list of names and scores, but instead going one click further to actually understand the context of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, What you, Chris, are probably sick of me of hearing me talk about because since the year started, I feel like I haven't shut up about, like, I think the biggest mistake most companies make when building a score is trying to make it too complicated at the beginning. Um, and this is what I mean by, like, it doesn't have to be perfect when it launches. If you just truly use your engagement to see who has been engaging with you recently, and then, as Chris, you're saying, now then on top of that, you layer some context on what that doesn't have to be at the score level. That can be at in your CRM, in your notifications to the sales team, whatever your team is looking at, you can add the context there. The context doesn't have to be at the score, and then oftentimes when it is embedded in the score, it just makes things so complicated that it's hard to get it off the ground, and then you get these scores where someone's an 18 and someone else is a 20, and, like, do those 2 points matter?
Right. Or that's probably how they overcomplicate it, right? It's a random, and that's the part, like, you don't know. Like, you don't there's no trust in the decision. Usually at this point, you either don't have enough data to support the point choices that you're making, like, or it's just there's so much data that you haven't done the analysis of this thing should equal 5 points versus this thing that should equal 10 points. It's
Mhm,
just usually bias of whoever's
mhm,
building at that point and how important they think that particular activity is. And that is, probably the easiest place to create a really distrustful situation, um, because it ends up with high scores or low scores that are misrepresentative, and people get excited or let the thing fall through the crack.
yeah, I see when we build these, like, complex systems from the beginning, what I often see is, okay, we built this very complicated score, we thought through every single scenario, um, and then you turn it on, and you have, like, 3 people that have, like, whatever your, like, goal score is or, whatever. Um, and that's, like, a big piece of this too, like, how many people are we building this score for? And once we start kind of slicing and dicing this score every which way, you're taking people out of the score, most of the time. And most systems that we work in are incomplete. We don't have complete data, we don't have updated data and things like that. Um, so when we slice and dice too much, then we're missing some we're missing.
Yeah, we're missing something. And that's why I think alongside this, it's so important to have those debrief sessions with the sales team or whoever is viewing the score to make sure and like learn as quickly as possible, but also don't over index on the first couple of hits, right? Like, just because one score could have been better doesn't mean the second score that's built the exact same way uh, is also going to be incorrect. So, are you like, how do you think about, like, and I wouldn't blame you if you never thought about this, but statistical significance in terms of making decisions on scores, on like the right amount of scores?
Um, so stat was the worst grade I got in college was in stat. That's not true. French. I failed French, but
Yeah. I took French in high school and was like, all right, let's do it in college too. No, no, different level.
but out of the classes that are, like, relevant to my career, stat is the one I did the worst in.
Yeah. It's not
Um,
not the
so
most fun class.
so I'll put that up there. I mean, I don't know if this is answering the question, um, but I and I'm trying not to, like I mean, I have thought about this a lot lately because of the project you and I are working on right now, but I truly think, like, get a score out the door. Get, like, the broadest score out the door, and then if at that point you're like, "Oh, this is too broad," or "This doesn't work," then you can build another one. Like, I just think and I say that with, um I've said that with, like, nurture workflows for as long as I've been building nurture workflows, um, which I guess we're rounding 10 years. We're on the wrong side of of that, but, as long as I've been building nurture workflows, people have been coming to me and they've said, "Hello, Casey. I have this 600 email sequence to 50 different audiences. Depending on which email they clicked, they'll get this one, that one, there, blah, 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 blah." Um, and I've constantly been like, "That's a great plan." Um, are any of the emails approved? Like, 'cause by the time we get
Yeah,
600 emails approved, it's gonna be 2040. Like,
right.
so so I'm constantly like, "Let's get 3 emails approved. Let's send them to everybody. Let's see how many people click any of those emails before we worry about which email, people are gonna get based on which email they clicked. Because if 2 people click an email, why are we building a whole subset of this flow for 2 people?" And I feel the same thing about scores. When you make them like, if you just start with 1, you start to get a sense, "Okay, we're seeing 100 people have high intent, 1,000 people have medium intent. Okay, we that's too big for our needs, so we wanna kind of separate the medium intent out and start figuring out who's in what group for medium intent and so on." Um, and I mean, I don't I've I'm not shut up on LinkedIn about lead scoring for a year now, but and I don't mean to oversimplify it, but, like, I just think step 1 should be super simple. Like, are they a bad fit? Truly bad? And have they done it and the ex take those people out, and then have they interacted with you recently?
Yeah,
Okay. How many
it's
people are we talking about? Is that an overwhelming amount for your sales team? If it is, great news. Now we start kinda digging in from there, but oftentimes,
it
it's
isn't.
not.
Yeah, this is one of those foreign concepts, like, inside of industrial manufacturing, like, um, because since I wanted to bring in HubSpot is always associated with, lead management and lead scoring and stuff, and but when I ask a sales team, like, they're like, "No, we don't what? We don't want you filtering?
Mhm,
Like, we don't have enough leads to be
mhm,
filtering these people." Like, and there's a balance there, obviously, they just want I mean, they want to be the ones filtering in a lot of cases, but, I mean, it wasn't wrong in terms of, tens of leads, like, let them handle it, but it sounds like what you're saying is, like, first of all, documenting fit, which a lot of companies haven't done,
mhm.
step 1, and then that gives you context that you need to understand the true value, which is, like, behavior and engagement level, yeah?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that first thing out there, you'll never understand, uh, like, the context of the situation, um,
Yeah, and out of all the lead scoring projects I've worked on, At the beginning of every project, I've never heard at the beginning of the project, the goal is the the sales team has too many leads, and we're trying to get them fewer leads. It's never once been the goal at the beginning. Sometimes after we have turned it on and we've then they're like, "Eh, some of these aren't great." Like, that's sometimes the second step, but I don't think any have started with that being the problem. Um,
So does that what is the problem then?
s there's gold in our CRM, and we don't know who it is. We know there's gold in there.
Okay. So we need to get sales team more leads,
Yes.
and we don't know enough about these people. All these people are sitting in our CRM, so let's figure out how to score them so that we can get them to sales.
And when I tell people I wanna focus on engagement, um, I do get discomfort from people sometimes because they're like I said, there's gold in there, but we don't know who it
Yeah,
is,
they
and
don't
what
have
if
it.
but, my issue I mean, we'll define your ICP, your profile, we need to figure that out, and we'll kind of filter that, but if someone's job title I mean, a lot of the time, somebody's job title hasn't been updated in 5 years, so our that's not helpful.
Yep.
Mm, has their job title not changed? Maybe.
This
I
is
don't
where you
have a job
start though,
title.
right? Like, yeah, that's why it's starting from that point, and now you can do a bunch of stuff that creates the opportunity for signals. Um, yeah, even if that's and I'm sure in some cases it's as long as you're aligned with the sales team, what's happening, then handing that specific group of people off to sales so that they can do a one-to-one email. And do they respond or not? Does it hit? Does it bounce back? Um, does that piece of handing it to sales then lead sales to go look at their LinkedIn profile and then update the data and then like there's so many this is why I always find it interesting that companies look everywhere else for data outside of their CRM when they do have value on, or call it gold. Uh, they do have value inside their CRM. They just have no idea how to activate it because they're trying to just automate everything.
Mhm.
And that's, a good example there. And they try to automate it without actually creating a sample set that you can define and have constructive conversations about. And right, like for me, the first step is look at the closed one like deals and closed lost deals and debrief and then like roll it back for there,
Mhm.
especially if the request is coming from sales to like dig into the data and get more leads.
Mhm.
Like they should be the first people to help you, with
And that's
that.
usually how we come up with the ideal customer. We usually look at closed won deals, who's associated with those, and what does basically, how can we, identify what's in common with those people?
Yeah.
Um, but that's I mean, I almost always think your first lead score, your to launch should be spend some time looking at the closed won deals, who's associated, the context, the companies, what's in common. But after that, then it's just like, who have we seen recently? Who's and then that's it. You don't have to audit every single asset that you have and figure out whether every single asset is high intent, medium intent, or low intent. Oftentimes, when I pull up how many of people in our ICP, if you will, have visited the website in the last 30 days. It's oftentimes not. I mean, it's going to depend on the org, but usually it's not going to overwhelm your sales team.
Yeah. No, I mean, so many marketing conversations are like, can we just let behavioral data help us make some decisions instead of thinking that we're going to figure all this out? Like, get it out there, whether it's a score, a new marketing asset, whatever. Like, because that's the other side of this, right? Like you mentioned, how long is it going to take for those emails, that that whole campaign, like, to get approved and actually be published so that people can engage and then it can be scored, right? Like that process often takes way longer than people expect.
And I mean, mentioned this in the intro. I have perfectionist tendencies. I also have fuck it tendencies. It really depends on the day. But I'm working on a lead score for one of my clients right now, and it's been stuck in my perfectionist side of my brain where I just am not able to move forward with it. So I promise to keep it 30 today. So if you take one thing from today, myself included, give yourself permission to start imperfect. Use that fuck it, send it side of your brain.
Ship it.
Ship it. If your first score isn't perfect, that's fine. It's your first score isn't the final answer. It's supposed to be good enough to learn from, good enough to get feedback, good enough to show you what you couldn't see from the planning phase. Debate less, build something, learn, refine. That's a cycle. It's not set and forget. You keep growing and you keep learning along the way. Thanks for joining us live. If you're stuck on a scoring project right now, you're managing stakeholders who want perfection before launch, drop a comment, send either of us a DM. We're living it too. We'll be back tomorrow where we're going to be unboxing both the lead scoring and the customer health scoring tools live here with the project managers for both of those tools. Keep an eye on our LinkedIns. I'll have that event up today to answer Chris's earlier Slack. And we'll see you soon.
Working in public. I love it. Have a great day, everybody.